Today we're going to be talking about use of a vise and putting some pipe fittings together for gas piping scenarios. The vise we have here available to us today is a bench mounted vise, two different types. There's a chain type and a yoke type, or tri-vices are oftentimes called. The chain is usually preferred because it's going to hold anything that's irregular in the way of objects. I can put fittings on a pipe and hold it in this particular type of vise, or the actual pipe itself. Today when we're going to thread a pipe, what we're going to do is we're going to set the pipe in here. Be careful that the actual threads of the pipe don't run over the serrated portion or the jaws portion of the actual vise itself, because that'll damage your threads. So we always want to be cautious of that. Once we've got that installed, we're basically going to take the chain, there's a little tab underneath this side here, and then we're going to hold it as we start to screw the vise back this direction. When we snug that up, that pipe isn't going anywhere. We aren't going to have any issues. We're going to show you, first of all, with the Canon Masters Protope, the most common type of pipe sealant used out there in the industry is Protope. There are other types, but this is by far and away the most popular out there. When we go to dope an actual fitting itself, we're going to make sure to get the excess off by scraping it on the can. And then we're going to go ahead and apply it around our threads, keeping our first two starter threads bare of our pipe dope. So again, we're going to layer this around. If it doesn't get all the way around, it's not a huge concern because it will spread when we put the fitting on. But basically speaking, we just want to make sure that we have a very thin coating fairly well around the pipe. Once we have that on, we can go ahead and start our fitting. Always a good idea to start the fitting by hand. That way if it's cross-threaded, we're able to determine that. And typically speaking, a fitting should roll about halfway on to the actual pipe by hand. If it goes a lot further than that, it usually means that we have a problem. Either the pipe thread itself is problematic or maybe the fitting. I have a fitting over here that I put on, and actually it bottomed out right on the actual bottom of the thread. So this actual fitting has been really tightened so hard that it's actually sprung the actual fitting itself. So this fitting is a piece of junk. It's going in the garbage as soon as we're done the demonstration, just because of that. So now that I've got this on here hand tight, I'm going to grab the appropriate pipe wrench. In this case, a 14-inch rigid is going to do, or a 14-inch pipe wrench, for a 3/4 or a half. 14 is by far and away the most common pipe wrench size that I use out there. Again, I'm going to open up the jaws, and I'm going to open it up so it fits perfectly over the shoulder of the fitting itself. I want it to be about halfway in between the actual arm that sits here and the opening at that point. So ideally my jaws are going to grip that halfway. Now a pipe wrench will only work in one direction. We want this fitting to twist on clockwise, so we're going to use the pipe wrench in this direction, turning it clockwise. If we try and turn it this way, that pipe wrench will not grip anything. So it's ready to grip clockwise. So I'm going to go ahead, and again, when I've got it in the vise like this, a lot of times I want to push down or use my momentum of my body at that point to push against the actual wrench itself. Another big thing that we see, especially with a lot of newer technicians out there in the field, is that they over-tighten this application. We do not need to have this fitting very, very tight. Snug, but not extremely tight. Plenty of pressure on there. So, there is the fitting. Now, I can also utilize the vise with a fitting on it. Turn back the opposite direction. And this fitting, I'm going to use some pipe tape. Now, pipe tape is approved by ULC and should say so on the label. Normal plumbing Teflon tape will not work in this application. We always want to make sure that we're wrapping the pipe tape perfectly around the pipe. There's no adhesive on this, so we basically have to friction fit or hold the pipe tape as we put it around, making sure that it's in the correct direction. Because when we go to put the fitting on, the tendency of the pipe is to want to take that tape and start to move the Teflon in that direction. So if we have it facing the wrong way when we go to put our fitting on, it's actually going to unravel the tape. So we've got to make sure, because we're putting the fitting on clockwise, that our final lip coming over is going to be basically heading in a clockwise direction. So you can see when I go to put this fitting on, at that point, it covers right over the tape without unraveling. And again, using the jaws of the pipe wrench, perfectly adjusted, I'm able to tighten up that fitting. Now, because it's in the actual vise here, we don't have to worry about this moving. In reality, in the field, in many cases, what we do, we're tightening up against pipes where everything can move. So in many cases, what we'll do is I will use a secondary wrench opposing my initial wrench, which is going to hold everything still. And that's known as a backing wrench. And you can see here, I can pull one to the other to be able to get the purchase that I want. When I'm undoing really heavily done up or tightened fittings at that point, I'll use the two wrenches in conjunction together to pull against each other. And I'll also use it to hold everything if I'm on an existing pipe system itself.